driving not just any old Pagani Zonda S Roadster, but Horatio Pagani's personal Zonda S Roadster. I know I don't need to say it, but life doesn't get much sweeter than this. Spend enough time driving this thing and you say to yourself, why would you ever build any other type of car? And I was asking Horatio Pagani this question, and he said, you know, the problem is around 2003, suddenly all these hypercars showed up, right? You had the Bugatti Veyron, you had the Porsche Carrera GT, you had the Mercedes McLaren SLR, and of course, the Ferrari Enzo. And all of a sudden, the Zonda was just a plain old supercar. It wasn't a hypercar. So all the way back then, in 2003, he began thinking about his hypercar. What would it look like? How would it drive? What would it consist of? Well, 8 years later, he showed the world his hypercar. And on this week's episode of Ignition, I'm gonna drive it. Oh.
The story of the Huayra isn't complete until you see where they're built. The Huayra's carbon fiber central tub is lifted onto a Pagani-designed rig, the aluminum subframes are bolted in place, and the hypercars are then constructed totally by hand. Need some bolts? Then just pop over to the cases holding the bolts and fish out the number you need. This is how cars were built a very long time ago, and happily, Pagani continues this tradition. There's no doubt in my mind that completed Huayras are works of art. The pieces and parts that comprise them are just as lovely. The individual carbon fiber pieces are exquisite and hand-finished in temperature and humidity-controlled rooms. The leather is of the same quality that you'd find in high-end handbags. Each aluminum piece, from the HVAC controls to the gear selector, is a thing you'd happily let live forever on your desk. Quite literally, Horatio's workshop is a candy store for car junkies. As much fun as I had watching Huayras being assembled, and of course picking up and fondling random pieces like the exhaust pipes, I didn't come all the way to Modena just to watch. I came to drive.
Driving a Pagani Huayra. And I mean, look, right off the bat, this is an incredibly powerful car. You've got the twin turbo V12 hand built in Alfaltabach by AMG, 730 horsepower, 764 pound-feet of torque. Hypercars are fast, we know all that. That's not what this car is about. Yes, it's faster than whatever you drive and whatever you can imagine driving. The whole thing with the Huayra is that there's so much to experience. You could sit here in the car and just push these gorgeous machine-turned aluminum buttons all day. The leather is exceptional. The carbon fiber is exceptional. It's not even carbon fiber, it's carbon fiber titanium. This is just world class. I've never seen anything as gorgeous as this carbon fiber. You drive something like this and your brain just starts to wander off to very strange places. I think for a lot of people, they might be thinking like, how can I work hard enough to make enough money to afford something like this? My particular brain starts to say things like, who did I trick? Who did I fool? Why am I able to drive this? Because it's so different. It's so special. It's just such an incredible machine.
Without getting into the details, I know for certain that a Huayra can hit 209 miles per hour. And since there are about 3 places on Earth where that's important, I didn't feel the need to verify Pagani's claim that the car will do 231 miles per hour. As for straight line acceleration, they're claiming 0 to 60 in 3.2 seconds. Italians don't really get the whole quarter mile thing, but I think it's safe to say that she'll run in the low 11 seconds.
I think I might just start doing U-turns and running on straights all day. You know, I've spent a lot of time driving a lot of vehicles that have the twin-turbo AMG V12. And this is the only one that feels really fast. Maybe because it's not coupled to that 5-speed, slow AMG transmission. But this car, it's so quick. Rarely felt cars that turn in like this. It's unbelievable. This car is as happy going left or right as it is going straight, and that's a very, very, very difficult thing to pull off. Above about 50 miles an hour, 80 kilometers an hour, the active aeros kicks in, and the 4 wings start working in conjunction with the hydraulic lift on the front axle. And it's unbelievable. It's like, I don't know how to describe how this car holds the road.
Horatio told me that when he started working on the active aero system, there was no one in the entire car industry that could help him. So he turned to aviation. In the Huayra, not only are the 4 wings functional, but just like an airplane, there's actually a switch that allows you to test them before you take flight.
It's way too much for this road. I mean, this car is just destroying this road. And this road is trying to destroy this car. But we're not going to let it. Things I don't like about the Huayra. Well, this one's covered in this stupid wrap. A few weeks ago, I saw one, Pebble Beach, was raw carbon fiber. Absolutely gorgeous. I'm sorry for the way this one looks. We showed up. This is the car they gave us. You'll also notice I'm wearing my hat, which usually I wear when it's very hot out or I'm having a bad hair day. However, today there's a piece of glass above my head and it's baking me. And then there's the kind of the low speed handling of this car. And so if you drive something like the Veyron, what freaks you out about the Veyron is that as you're running around in the parking lot, and I know everyone's said this, but you might as well be driving a Volkswagen Golf. It's so easy to maneuver, so easy just to creep along at 5 miles an hour. This car isn't. But again, who cares? Just forget all that nonsense. All these critiques are pretty meaningless because this thing just goes like nobody's business. Oh my God. As you're driving and hammering it, I mean, it's, you know, you're being overwhelmed by the ferocity of the velocity, the braking power, the turning ability. You know, it's just such an athlete. And then, you know, as you kind of slow down and look around, you know, it's like, God, look at the leather, look at the stitching, look at this aluminum, look at this carbon fiber, like the, you know, the weird little air vents are gorgeous. And it's like your favorite album. Like, you know, one of my favorite albums is Paul's Boutique by the Beastie Boys. And, you know, I've been listening to that record for over 20 years now. And every time I listen to it, I hear something new. And I think every time you drive this car, you're going to notice something new. And I'm going to floor it because it's a straight. Oh my God! But I really think you would figure something else out that you hadn't noticed before. And just keep noticing things and being pleasantly surprised by things. Like, I just was making a left turn, I looked down, I noticed that goofy little point of the rearview mirror. And I think that's the point of the Huayra. Is it the fastest car in the world? No. Is it the absolute best handling car in the world? No. Does it cost too much? Yes. It's a $1.4 million. It's the same price as a LaFerrari, and it doesn't make as much power, and it's not going to be as quick, but you just won't care. There's 80 guys in a building in Modena making this thing. It's not some mega national corporation, with all the best engineers available. I mean, this is, one man's vision, and I just love cars like that.
I get to spend a great deal of time playing around with the greatest cars in the world. But even supercars can grow routine. The Huayra, on the other hand, I simply wasn't prepared to be this impressed. The Huayra is Pagani's masterpiece, both as a company and as an individual. Nearly every single aspect of the car is mind-blowing, but more than that, every single aspect represents one man's singular vision of what an automobile should be. Of course, there is no perfect car, but until that time, the Pagani Huayra is number one in both my mind and my heart. I'm awed, really and truly awed.